poet actually wants us to imagine or visualize such a kind of a scenario or a kind of picture in which the vivaciousness, the warmth of nature is lacking, and all we can see is a pale, lifeless landscape. The sun is weak because it is winter, and the sun is not emitting, or the sun is not in one way you can say the sun does not seem to be that glorious as it seems in the summer season. The rays of the sun seem to be very, very weak. Okay, so it's all very dull, very lethargic. Okay, around every corner in the world. Okay. So, along with this, we are also told that people have gone inside their homes because it is winter, and they will go and sit by the fireside. So, this somehow leaves the poet alone outside. The poet is roaming around from one place to another place. He's totally alone, and he's saying that it is because of this scenario, this landscape, that every person has retired to home very, very early, and that makes me lonely. I do not know where to go. And Hardy, in this poem, compares the land to a dead body, and also he's comparing the cloudy sky to its tomb. Okay. So, see, the comparison is very clear. Just imagine that the land is a dead body, okay, and the sky above means the sky that is in one way filled with clouds. Okay, that cloudy sky is the tomb for that dead body. And the winds also, the movement of the winds and the sound that is coming out. Okay, when because of the fierceness of the wind or because of the movement of the wind. Okay, so whatever sound comes out, it seems like a funeral song, right? So that image of morbidity, that image of solemnity, that image of death and gloom is quite abound, right? And both nature and human life appears hopeless and without energy. So I think it is clear to all of you that the dominant image, okay, or rather you can say that the images that we can see in this particular poem are somehow indicating the ideas of death, okay, something that is going to end, right, or the lack of hope, vivaciousness in life, the lack of enthusiasm in life, that it is all about death, dullness, gloom in life. Okay, and along with that, winter, the season of winter, and also philosophically, when you enter the wintry phase of your life, what happens? That everything kept together, or everything in one way conjoined together, has been put into the poem. So suddenly what happens? Suddenly the silence of that place is broken by the song of an old thrush. I told you that there is a thrush. Okay, so the poet was in one way, he was getting disturbed, or he was getting agitated mentally, emotionally. He was just thinking how silent the entire landscape has become. There is no sign of happiness, there is no sign of activity, enthusiasm. So all of a sudden what happens? That silence gets disrupted by the song of an old thrush. So though the bird was weak and frail, but it was singing with full joy and energy, and because of that joyfulness, because of that energy, the entire evening, means the dark evening, right, the dark evening, that's very dull evening, it became in one way it became very musical. Okay, so the musical notes, the very, very mellifluous voice of that particular thrush actually made that dark evening very not very, but to some extent that evening, okay, it got the silence of the evening got disrupted, and there was a sense of hope, there was a sense of beauty, right, that was straight being emanated from the from the song or from the voice of the thrush. So the poet is obviously very surprised because he sees no reason for such happiness in the gloomy world around. So when this poet, he's looking around the world, he only thinks that it is just, gloom and desolation and dullness. There is nothing else. So all of a sudden, when this darkling thrush or when this thrush is singing and the voice is actually beautifying the entire place, or you can say it is disrupting the abnormal silence or that abominable silence of that place. At that time the poet realizes that that it is actually a matter of surprise, because I could not see any happiness in this gloomy world, but all of a sudden I just felt a surge of energy. I just felt a surge of hope. Okay, so he thinks perhaps that maybe the thrush knows about some hidden hope or blessing that he cannot himself see. So there must be something which this thrush knows. There must be some secret to the happiness of this thrush, okay, which is making the thrush so hopeful, which is making the thrush seem to be so happy. Okay, so there might be some secret source of hope and happiness that this thrush knows, but we do not know. Right? So this is the brief summary of the poem. Now we will go to the poem. Okay, we will go through the lines and see what happens in details. I leaned upon a coppice gate when frost was spectre grey, and winter dregs made desolate the weakening eye of day. Okay, so see, what we see is that I leaned upon a coppice gate means the speaker is standing and he's resting against a small wooden gate. Okay, so there is a small wooden gate at the entrance of a woodland. Okay, suppose there is green land. Okay, and on it you will find that there is a thicket. Okay, there is a thicket, or there is a small woodland. Okay, a small green a green area. Okay, in which there are some trees. So the speaker is standing there and he is resting against a small wooden gate at the entrance of a thicket, or at the entrance of a woodland. Okay. When frost was spectre grey means that it was a cold winter day, right? So it was a cold winter day and frost was covering everything. So whatever he saw, or wherever he looked, okay. So he just found what he found, that on every entity, on every natural entity, frost has made its appearance. So the entire landscape looked very frosty, looked dull, okay, looked very ghostly, pale and lifeless. And winter's dregs made desolate the weakening eye of the day. So winter's dregs made desolate means it is because of the winter, or you can say that it is the end of the winter. The winter season is about to end. So in the time in which the time that is being depicted is the you can say is the closure of winter. Okay, so it is the end of winter when the dregs means the remains. Okay, মানে ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে winter শেষ হবে. So we are actually visualizing such a kind of scenario যেখানে আমরা দেখছি যে winter already চলে এসেছে, অনেক দিন হয়েও গেছে, and now it is going to be the ending of the winter season. And what do we see? We see that the remaining time period, okay, বা যা কিছুই আছে means the dregs or the remains of the season, একটা সিজনের যে শেষ দিকটা, হ্যাঁ, কি মনে হচ্ছে সব দিকে দেখে দেখো winter season কি হয়, সবকিছু খুব dry হয়ে যায়. So when you look around you will find that the world does not look as beautiful as it would look during the spring season. Obviously spring season এর মতন হবে না, winter মানে খুব dull. So the point says that because of the winter season, wherever I look, okay, or wherever my eyes go, I only find barrenness. Okay, I only find emptiness. the landscape has become barren and empty, right? And the weakening eye of day. So as because in winter season the sun is not too sharp, the sun is not so strong, the rays of the sun are not so strong and powerful. Okay, so the sun, that is called the eye of the day. Okay, what is the eye of the day? The eye of the day is sun, and the sun is weakening, right? So the sun, that is called the eye of the day, it is very faint now. The sun rays are faint and the sun has become very weak, right? So as the sun is going to set, because it is the daylight will be completely replaced by the by evening, or you can say by moonlight. So not only because of the winter season the sun has become weak, but also because of the fact that we have almost reached that point of the day when the daylight is dying. Okay, when the daylight will be replaced by the evening moonlight. Okay, the tangled vine stems escort the sky like strings of broken lyres. Okay, tangled vine stems means the plant stems. Okay, যেগুলো আমরা বলি না ভাইনস আর ক্রিপার্স গুলো কেমন হয়? ক্রিপার্স গুলো তোমরা দেখেছো, ভাইনস আর ক্রিপার্স গাছের মধ্যে এরকম করে স্পাইরাল ওয়েতে মানে ওরা কিভাবে উপরের দিকে যায়। সো these climbing plant stems, or you can say the vines or creepers, they are leafless. ওদের মধ্যে একটাও লিফ নেই, and they are tangled. We know tangled why? Because this is their nature. Vines or creepers, ওদের নেচারটা এমনি যে একটা কেমন একটা স্পাইরাল বা একটা মানে ট্যাঙ্গলড ওয়েতে ওরা they will be in one way ওরা কি করবে, they will be like hugging a tree. Okay, so or any other any other natural entity or any other vegetation. So these plant stems, they are sticking up against the sky just like twisted strings. যেমন আমরা দেখি না যে কিছু কিছু মানে স্ট্রিংস গুলো টুইস্ট হয়ে থাকে, যেরকম কোনো একটা মানে মিউজিক্যাল ইনস্ট্রুমেন্টে if you find that, suppose you have a lyre. Okay, you have a lyre or you have another musical instrument, you will, and on those instruments there are strings. ঠিক আছে, স্ট্রিংস দিয়ে কি হয়, মিউজিকটা বেরোয়। ঠিক আছে, ওটার উপরে কি হয়, you play with your fingers and a very a musical tone will be composed. Okay, তো যখন কি হয়, ভাবে সোজা সোজা লাগানো আছে, but if the strings are broken, then what happens? Or if the musical instrument is broken, then what happens? You will find that the strings are twisted, ওগুলো টুইস্ট হয়ে যায়। ওদের যে স্ট্রেট একদম যে নেচারটা, ওটা কেমন হয়ে যায়, ওটা ছিঁড়ে ওটা ঘুরে যাচ্ছে, কেমন একটা স্পাইরাল হয়ে যাচ্ছে, বা ওরা টুইস্টেড হয়ে যাচ্ছে। তো তেমনই এখানে পোয়েট কি বলছে যে when I look around, I find that these vines or creepers that are leafless, they are tangled. Okay, they are tangled and they are sticking up against the sky. ঠিক আছে, ওরা স্কাই এর দিকে, they are as if they are going to like they are following the sky, or they are looking upward at the sky, right? So they are following the direction of the sky, just like the twisted strings of a broken musical instrument. ঠিক আছে, so এই যে এটা যেটা আছে না, যে tangled vine stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres. তো এখানে দেখো এটা পড়লে পরে তো দেখে এটাকে খুব মানে ব্যাপারটা মনে হচ্ছে যে হ্যাঁ একটা সিম্পল একটা ডিটেইল দিয়েছে বা একটা সিম্পল ডেসক্রিপশন দিয়েছে, বাট এখানে কি আছে যে এখানে এই দুটো লাইনের মাধ্যমে the poet is actually trying to create an image of silence. The poet is actually trying to create an image of desolation. ঠিক আছে, silence and desolation, as if music and beauty have been destroyed. এখানে যেমন বলছে না strings of broken lyres, মানে কি যে that music and beauty, a sense of beauty, okay, sense of beauty or a sense of happiness that you get from music, it has been destroyed. আর এই যে ভেঙে যাওয়া, হ্যাঁ, বা ট্যাঙ্গলড বলো বা ব্রোকেন বলো, স্ট্রিংস অফ ব্রোকেন লায়ার্স, এগুলো কি, দিস ওয়ার্ডস আর অ্যাকচুয়ালি ক্রিয়েটিং অ্যান ইমেজ of desolation, disappointment, sorrow, silence. Okay, And all mankind that haunted night had sought their household fires. So he says that everyone nearby has gone inside their home to sit by the warmth of the fire. সবাই তো ভেতরে আছে, বাইরে একদম বাইরের যে সাইলেন্সটা ওটা অ্যাবনর্মাল সাইলেন্স, বাইরে যে সাইলেন্সটা that is inducing isolation, that is inducing a sense of desolation in me. I feel so alienated, I feel isolated, and everyone has gone inside their home because they are they are planning to take that warmth, okay, of the fire. So the speaker is naturally left alone outside in the cold bleak landscape, okay. So he's outside, and he means at this point we feel that he's completely bereft of the of the warmth of the house that the other people are enjoying, right? So overall, in the first stanza, we see that the poet is painting a picture of a lonely winter evening, and the countryside is barren. It seems to be ghostly. The sun is also weak and it is dying because now it is going to be the evening time, and the plants also look broken, lifeless. The people have retreated down, have retreated indoors, okay. So everything suggests a sense of decay, silence, hopelessness, right? So he is also feeling very, very alone and detached. Now coming to the next stanza, okay. The land's sharp features seemed to be the centuries corpse outlined. So the land actually looks very bare, okay, bare and very sharp, as if it were the dead body of the old century. মানে old century মানে the 19th century মানে ending, ঠিক আছে। তো সেটাই মানে মনে হচ্ছে যে যেহেতু 19th century, এই যে পোয়েমটা এমনি একটা সময় লেখা হয়েছে যখন 19th century অ্যাকচুয়ালি মানে এন্ড হবে, ঠিক আছে, 20th century ওইটা নতুন মানে ওইটা স্টার্ট হবে, মানে টাইমটা এরকমের ছিল। তো বা বলতে পারো যে 19th century যে রিমেইনিং যে ইয়ার্স গুলো তখন লেখা হয়েছে। তো হার্ডি বলছে যে এই যে ল্যান্ডটা, দ্য ল্যান্ড লুক সো বেয়ার, ওকে, sharp. It looks sharp and bare, as if it were a dead body of the old century, ঠিক আছে। তো মনে হচ্ছে একটা ওল্ড সেঞ্চুরি বা যে সেঞ্চুরিটা জাস্ট শেষ হবে ওর ডেড বডিটা মানে চারিদিকে আর কি আছে, আমি মনে হচ্ছে পুরো এরিয়াটা, হ্যাঁ, একটা ডেড বডি, এর মধ্যে কোনো লাইফ নেই। তো এখানে আমরা কি বুঝতে পারছি যে ল্যান্ডস্কেপের যে ব্যারেননেস ওর সাথে ও একটা ডেড বডির যে কোল্ডনেস ওইটাকে মানে কি করছে, কম্পেয়ার করছে। He script the cloudy canopy, the wind his death lament. So the sky is covered with clouds, right? And this particular idea or this particular image of the sky being covered with clouds, it has been compared, it has been it has been compared with the tomb of the dead century. So thus, as I told you, if the dead century, right, the century that he's talking about, if century is the body, means the century that is dying, okay, and we have the dead body of the century, and that dead body is being, obviously you have to bury that dead century. So where are you burying it? You are burying it in a tomb, and that sky that is covered with clouds, it actually seems like the tomb of the dead century, or the grave of it's the graveyard of the dead body. And what is the dead body? The dead body is the dead century. So here we see that the dead century is compared to a dead body, and the tomb is compared to a sky covered with clouds, okay. And the wind is death lament. Death lament means the wind, the sound of the wind actually seems like a sad funeral song, okay. The ancient pulse of germ and birth was shrunken, hard and dry. So Hardy says that the natural power of life and growth has completely disappeared. So in winter time, or in this time, or during this time, it actually, pierces his heart, or it actually hurts him to realize that the natural power of life, okay, life means warmth, life means vitality, life means energy. But when he now looks around, he feels that the power of life and growth has completely disappeared, okay, and nothing is growing. Right, nothing is growing. There is no sign of growth. There is no sign of life. Everything seems, or everything feels very dead and dry. And every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. And he says that all the living beings, just like me, means just like the poet himself, seem to have no energy, no passion, no hope. Okay. So what we see here is that the land is compared to a dead body. The wind sounds like a funeral song, and both nature and humans seem lifeless and hopeless, okay, during the winter season. Now coming to the third stanza. At once a voice arose among the bleak twigs overhead. So now he comes to the main part. Okay, now we come to the main part. So he says that suddenly a bird begins to sing from the bare branches above. Okay, so above my head there are bare branches. There are leafless branches. So from these leafless branches, I can hear a voice. Okay, and I can give this surety that it is a bird. Okay, it is a bird that is singing in such a sweet way, in such a sweet manner, in a full-hearted even song of joy illimited. So this song is full of life, this song is full of joy and endless energy. There is unlimited energy in this song. An aged thrush, frail, gaunt, and small, in blast beruffled plume. So he says that it is an old thrush. Okay, it is an aged thrush. It is a small bird. It is weak. Okay, it is frail. It is weak, and it is very thin. Right, and the feathers of this bird are ruffled by the cold wind. Ruffled means they are being moved. Okay, they are being disturbed or moved or agitated by the cold wind. Had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. So the poet says that despite being so weak and old, the bird pours out all its spirit in a happy song. Okay, so this is the most beautiful thing about the song of that bird, that the bird seems to be so weak, the bird seems to be old and fragile, but when the bird is singing, it is pouring out all its spirit in such a spontaneous manner. And the beauty of the song, the mellifluous voice of this thrush is filling the entire place and the dark evening with hope, with light, okay, with the light of hope. So what we see here is that means what the poet wants to give, what the poet wants to convey is, even though everything in your life someday it might seem dreadful, it might seem dull, dead, and hopeless, but just like the old thrush, okay, always try to be joyful or sing joyfully, show unexpected hope and courage even in the face of adversity. Okay. So we see that the poet feels that the world is lifeless, the world is hopeless like a dead century, but suddenly a weak old thrush sings with full joy, and that brings a surprising sense of hope in the middle of despair. Then we go to the next stanza, fourth stanza. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound. So he says that there was no clear reason in the world around for such joyful singing. Okay, So the poet is of the opinion that in this world, there are such, reasons for disappointment, sorrows, okay, then dissatisfactions, disgruntlements, right? So we all have such, great problems or adverse studies in our life that we can never be fully happy, or that happiness does not come out so spontaneously. So he imagines what pure reason or what clear reasons in this world, okay, in this world around could be or could exist for such joyful singing. Okay, how it is possible that this thrush is singing in such a joyful manner? So in this song is so pure, as if that song or that voice has no idea what sorrow looks like. Was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around. So it says that nothing in nature, either near or far, মানে পৃথিবীতে মানে সে কোনো পাশের জিনিস হোক বা সেটা আমি মানে দেখতে পাচ্ছি নাকি ওটা অনেক দূরে আছে, এমনি কোনো জিনিস নেই পৃথিবীতে যেটা হয়তো কোনো রকম ভাবে এক্সপ্লেন করতে পারবে যে হঠাৎ করে একটা মানে এই যে সাডেন হ্যাপিনেস বা এই যে পুরো মানে যে যেটা আমরা বলি না যে some people or some things, okay, some very sudden things or unexpected things will happen in your life that will make you immensely happy, and you will just keep on like contemplating what could be the reason, okay, of such great happiness. তো এখানেও এমনি হচ্ছে যে উনি ভাবছেন যে হঠাৎ করে মানে মানে এই পুরো জায়গাটা অ্যাজ এফ ইলিউমাইন্ড হয়ে গেল, এনলাইটেন্ড হয়ে গেল, পুরো যে এই যে সাইলেন্সটা, যে ডালনেসটা, ওইটা একটুর জন্য আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে আমার পুরো দেখার ভঙ্গিটাই চেঞ্জ হয়ে গেল। সো হোয়াট কুড বি what could be the actual reason for this sudden happiness? হঠাৎ করে যে এই হ্যাপিনেসটা মিরাকুলাস হ্যাপিনেসের মতন এসে গেল, সেটার কি রিজন হতে পারে? ওকে, and he says that this earth, actually the earth looks just as sad and hopeless as before. ওকে, তো বলতে পারো যে মেবি হার্ডি ওই সময় যখন লিখছিলেন ওনার নিজের তখন একটা হয় না সাইকোলজি, তোমার যেমন হয় তোমার মিনস হোয়াট এভার ইউ হ্যাভ ইন ইউর মাইন্ড অ্যান্ড হোয়াট এভার ইউ সি, সো হোয়াট ইউ সি অ্যাকচুয়ালি ইজ জাস্ট অ্যান এক্সটেনশন অফ what is going on in your mind. আমরা বলতে পারি যে maybe he was going through a very tough phase in his life, and that's why he felt that the earth is a very sad place, the earth is a very dismal, the earth is a very you can say sorrowful place to live. Okay, তো সেই জিনিসটা উনি বলছেন যে আর্থের থেকে স্যাড আর হোপলেস মানে জায়গা হয় না, কিন্তু তার মধ্যে হঠাৎ করে এই থ্রাশ বা এই আওয়াজটা বা এই সংটা হঠাৎ করে কোথা থেকে এলো, যেটা আমাকে ফিল করাচ্ছে যে এই সাডেন হ্যাপিনেসটা এটা এত পিওর কিভাবে হতে পারে, বা এই যে গান করছে ওর গানের মধ্যে এতটা জয়ফুলনেস থাকতে কি করে পারে। That I could think there trembled through his happy good night air. So the poet begins to wonder now. Okay, so he begins to wonder that maybe the joyful song of the thrush carries some hidden meaning. কিছু একটা হিডেন মিনিং আছে ওর, যেটা হয়তো আমি জানি না বা বুঝতে পারছি না। ওকে, there must be some hidden meaning, otherwise হঠাৎ করে পুরো জায়গাটা, পুরো মুড এইভাবে চেঞ্জ কিভাবে হয়ে যেতে পারে। Some blessed hope whereof he knew and I was unaware. So the last line actually says that perhaps the bird knows of a special hope or blessing that the poet himself cannot see or understand. মানে কিছু একটা এর মধ্যে হয়তো কোনো রকমের একটা মিস্টিসিজম আছে, কিছু একটা এমনি জিনিস আছে যেটা আর কি মানে পোয়েট দেখতে পারছে না, পোয়েট বুঝতে পারছে না যে এই এত জয়ফুলনেসের রিজনটা কি। মেবি আমরা বিকজ we are humans, we live in a materialistic world, and that's why we are not able to somehow understand that the secret is a reason or the secret behind that hopefulness, that happiness which the thrush actually experiences, and with which the thrush actually sings. So that we humans cannot see, Right. So Hardy actually paints a picture of a cold, lifeless winter evening, and everything seems hopeless, just like the dying century itself. Okay. And when eventually he can hear the old thrush, old thrushes, joyful song, he suddenly feels that the dark world has got hopes as well. I don't know from where this hope is coming. I don't know how is this bird singing in with such a pure joy. But he eventually realizes that maybe the bird actually suggests that even in dark times there will be some hidden hopes which exist, but you just need to be calm. You just need to keep your eyes open. So just as that particular bird comes or arrives, okay, as a kind of angel, as a kind of angel, or as a kind of messenger. Okay, so we can say that probably the bird is actually symbolic of those sudden or unexpected, or you can say undeciphered, okay, hopes in life which we do not expect, right? But it just because we cannot see them, it doesn't mean that they do not exist. Just because the poet doesn't know, or the poet is not experiencing that pure joy, right? So it was a kind of shocking experience for him, amazing experience for him. But that one thing which actually we can think about, or that one thing which we can assume, is that just because you do not know it, just because you haven't seen it, okay, it doesn't mean that it does not exist, right? So what we see in the Darkling Thrush is that Hardy has painted very powerful pictures of winter, okay, the dying day, the bleak land, okay, and then there are the images like strings of broken lights, the century's corpse. So see how language can actually turn nature into a very vivid symbolic art, okay. Then the second thing that we find in the poem is the symbolism of hope as well as despair. So the contrast between the lifeless world and the singing bird makes the poem very meaningful, because the thrush becomes a symbol of hope in hopelessness, and that is a universal healing. Okay, so the poet was hopeless, the world was hopeless, that particular landscape was hopeless, but then suddenly the hope arrives. The light of hope actually enlightens the entire place and also that poet. Okay. Then if we talk about the philosophical depth of this poem, then we must think beyond the surface of nature into deeper human emotions. Okay, so who will tell me what could be the philosophical significance of this poem? Who will tell me? Tell me, somebody, what you learned, what have you learned from this poem? আমি যে পোয়েমটা পড়লাম, লাস্টের দিকে যে বললাম, তোমরা বলো তোমাদের কি মনে হয় যে হার্ডি এখানে কি বলতে কি চাইছে? আমি ছোট করে এমনিতে বললাম, তোমরা বলো। বলো বলো
বেসিক্যালি
হ্যাঁ বলো শানু।
হ্যাঁ, একটা হার্স একটা টাইমের সময় তিনি আর কি একটা হোপলেসনেস চরম চারিদিকে, অ্যান্ড অ্যাট দ্যাট টাইম তিনি একটা আনএক্সপেক্টেডলি হি ইজ ফাইন্ডিং একটা হিন্ট পাচ্ছেন যে পারহ্যাপস দের ইজ সামথিং গোয়িং টু বি গুড, এরকম একটা কিছু পাচ্ছেন, হোপ, এবং সেটা আনসার্টেন, ভবিষ্যৎ তো সবসময় অনিশ্চিত, তো সেই জন্য হি ক্যান সি দ্যাট, এবং একটা আশা নিরাশা এরকম ব্লেসেড হোপ এখানে একটা তিনি পাচ্ছেন। এটা তিনি একটা, আর হার্ডি সবসময়ই তিনি তার লেখা আমরা পাই যে ফেটের একটা ভূমিকা থাকে সবসময়ই, তো পারহ্যাপস দ্যাট ইজ অলসো প্রিন্টেড ইন দিস হোপ, ব্লেসেড হোপ, দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই
এক্স্যাক্টলি
ক্যাপিটালাইজডও করেছেন এটাকে।
হ্যাঁ এক্স্যাক্টলি। তো ঠিকই, মানে ব্যাপারটা ঠিকই ধরেছো। তো এখানে দেখো এই থ্রাশের সিম্বলিজমটা কিন্তু আমাদেরকে খুব ভালো করে বুঝতে হবে। দেখো, এক নম্বর যেটা আমি তোমাদেরকে বললাম যে থ্রাশের অ্যারাইভেল, ওকে, থ্রাশের অ্যারাইভেল মানে কি হলো, হোপ ইন ডিসপেয়ার। ওকে, হোপ ইন ডিসপেয়ার, একদম প্রাইমারি যে নোশনটা ওটা হলো হোপ ইন ডিসপেয়ার। সো সি, দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড লুকস ডেড, দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড লুকস হোপলেস, but the thrush is singing with joy. Okay, so see, the thrush is completely indifferent to the dead and hopeless world. Thrush is doing its own job. Thrusher কাজ হলো singing with joy, singing with unadulterated joy, and the thrush is doing its job. তো যখন thrush আসছে, গান করছে, তখন হার্ডির কিন্তু একটুর জন্য পুরো পারসেপশনটা চেঞ্জ হয়ে যায়। একটুর জন্য ওর মনে হয় যে ওয়ার্ল্ডটাকে না আমরা অন্যরকম ভাবেও দেখতে পারি। আর উনি পুরোপুরি অবাক হয়ে যান যে এতটা হোপলেস ওয়ার্ল্ডে হঠাৎ করে কোথা থেকে হোপ এসে গেল, মানে এখনো হোপ আসবে, মানে আমিজ দিস ডিসপেয়ারিং এন্ড আটারলি হোপলেস ওয়ার্ল্ড, ওকে, we can still dream of hope. মানে he is so shocked that he's questioning himself. উনি নিজেই, ওনার মনে হচ্ছে যে আমার রেশনালিটিটা কি মানে ইয়ে আছে, মানে ইনট্যাক্ট আছে, ঠিক আছে, উনি নিজেই আর কি, he has started questioning himself. He is definitely skeptic about it. ওনার মধ্যে skepticism দেখা যাচ্ছে, বাট উনি কিন্তু না চাইতেও, যদি উনি নাও চান স্টিল উনি কিন্তু ইনডিরেক্টলিও হোক বা একটু কন্ট্রোলড ওয়েতেও হোক, উনি কিন্তু অ্যাকসেপ্ট করছে যে হ্যাঁ, দ্যাট ভয়েস, দ্যাট সং ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি হোপফুল। ওকে, so the world looks dead, the world looks hopeless, but the thrush is singing with joy. So what does this signify? It signifies that there is hope, there is optimism even in the darkest times. You might not expect hope and optimism from a particular person or from a particular incident, but maybe the hope and optimism is actually hidden in those places from which you have least expectations. Okay, and secondly, the fact that if you think that everything is hopeless, everything is going to end, there is no hope for any kind of good thing, just because you think it doesn't mean that it is bound to happen. Okay, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Just because you think that everything will be sorrowful, everything will be desolatory, doesn't mean that the same thing is going to happen. Things can also be good. Okay, so second thing is that there should always be faith beyond human understanding. Okay, so you might have understood a particular situation in your own way, in your own perspectives, right? But do not become too cynical. Do not become too cynical in life. Do not become too skeptic in life. Sometimes you should keep your faith even in the most unexpected, even from the most unexpected people or people or incidents. Okay, or under adverse circumstances, you should never lose your faith, because see, the poet could not see any reason for joy, but the thrush arrives and it sings anyway, right? So what does this show? It shows that faith in something higher or unknown, okay, it might seem ambiguous, but and obviously humans may not understand it, but it does not mean that miracles cannot happen. So always keep your hopes intact, always keep your positive emotions intact. Okay, then from the thrush we also learn, or we also derive another very, very significant point. And what is that point? The resilience of nature, right? Why am I saying that the resilience of nature is shown by the thrush, or with the help of the thrush? Because see, it is mentioned in the poem that the thrush is weak, the thrush is old, but the bird is singing anyhow, right? So what is the message? What message is actually given by Hardy to us as well as himself? if the bird is weak, fragile, and so old, and still it is singing, then why can't we? Why can't Hardy? We all go through tough situations in life. We all go through, such circumstances in which we feel very vulnerable. We feel very enfeebled. Okay. So that is the time, when we should stand for the strength of life and spirit in nature. So even when conditions are harsh, try to be happy. Try to be happy. What do I actually mean by being happy is, here happiness is a kind of optimism and hope that you should never leave, okay, or that you should never forget about. So if the bird can do, you can also do that, right? So never lose the strength, the sense of strength, the sense of courage and determination in your life, and the spirit that we find in nature should also be, embodied by us. It should also be, inculcated by us. এটা আমাদেরকেও শিখতে হবে, আমাদেরকেও মানে ওইটা নিজেদের মধ্যে আনতে হবে, okay? Then the fourth thing that we learn from the thrush is that the thrush is actually, the thrush actually leads a certain kind of life which is completely contrast to human pessimism. Okay, you know what pessimism means, right? So the poet actually feels lifeless, hopeless, but the bird is constantly and spontaneously pouring out its song. So the thrush actually symbolizes what? The thrush symbolizes the possibility of joy beyond human despair. So you might feel very you might feel despaired, okay? You might feel pessimistic, you might feel lifeless and hopeless, okay? You might become very fragile, very weak in life, just as the bird is, but like the thrush that never, loses its sense of joy. We should also, believe in the possibility of joy beyond our limitations, beyond our sorrow, beyond our despair. So beyond human despair, there is a possibility of joy, right? So that thrush symbolizes this, right? And finally, in the poem, we are also told that that it is the turn of the century, okay? New and more creative, or the transformative times are going to come or going to arrive. So in the same way, we can say that as because this poem is written at the turn of the century, the thrush can also symbolize the hope of a new era, okay? So see, I think this poem somehow, it reminds you of Shelley's Ode to the West Wind as well, because there are some images that are quite similar to that of the images that we find in West Wind, right? So here we see that the mention of the old era, or the mention of the turn of the century, that a new time is going to come, it will be hopeful. So we can say that the arrival of the thrush is also suggestive of the arrival of a new era, right? So that's why the old century is going to be a dead body, a corpse, right? So in short, we can say that the thrush is a symbol of hope, faith, resilience, and renewal. And the thrush also shows that joy can still exist even when the world seems dark and meaningless, okay? If you do not leave your courage, determination, okay, then you can definitely find joy and hope even in the most hopeless and joyless conditions and circumstances of life. Okay? বোঝা গেল পোয়েমটা? বোঝা গেছে? সবাই বুঝেছো? হ্যাঁ, আচ্ছা, হ্যাঁ, ঠিক আছে। তো দেখো, পোয়েমটা মানে অ্যাকচুয়ালি খুবই সুন্দর, খুবই সুন্দর। হ্যাঁ, হয়তো হার্ডি তোমাদের রোমান্টিক, একদম যারা রোমান্টিক পোয়েটস, ওদের মতন অতটা আর কি ওপেনলি হয়তো ব্যাপারটাকে অ্যাকনলেজ করছেন না, বাট ওনার ওই সিনিসিজম বা স্কেপটিসিজম বা প্র্যাকটিক্যালিটি, মানে ওনার অ্যাটিটিউডের যে প্র্যাকটিক্যালিটি বা একটা গ্লুমিনেস, তার মধ্যে থেকেও কিন্তু আমরা বলতে পারছি যে উনি কিন্তু ওখান থেকে যাতে মানুষ বেরোক বা মানুষ একটা অন্য পার্সপেক্টিভ ইউজ করুক লাইফে, মিরাকেল কখনো হতে পারে, হোপ জীবনে কখনো আসতে পারে, সেটার জন্য তোমাকে রেডি থাকতে হবে। Okay, the earth might be a very dismal place, but you should never, close your eyes to the newness of experiences, or to the new experiences in life, because those experiences might contain such hidden secrets to happiness, to fulfillment, that you would have never imagined. So always be open to experiences, always be hopeful, always try to look at the positive aspects of life. Okay, at least try. If not, if you are not, if maybe we cannot become like we cannot become like Browning, who has robust optimism, but at least we should be hopeful in life. Okay, so that is something which Hardy is suggesting in this particular poem. Okay, তো এটা গেল তোমাদের এই পোয়েমটা। আমি তোমাদেরকে একটু পরে না, এই যে কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে, 10-15 মিনিটের মধ্যে তোমাদেরকে কিছু কোয়েশ্চেন্স, কিছু ইয়ে ম্যাটার, কি বলে তোমাদের যেটা বলে সাবজেক্ট ম্যাটার রিলেটেড যে ম্যাটেরিয়াল যেগুলো আছে, ওগুলো আমি পাঠাচ্ছি। আর আচ্ছা, আর আমাকে বলো, তো শানু তো বললো, বলো আমাকে, স্বর্ণালী বলো, কি বলে, তুমি কি মানে ফিলোসফিক্যাল যে সিগনিফিকেন্সটা এই পোয়েমের, যেটা আমি বললাম, বা যেটা বলতে পারো যে থ্রাশের যে রোলটা, বা থ্রাশ কি সিগনিফাই করে, যে তুমি একটু ছোট করে বলো, তাহলে তারপর আমরা ক্লাসটাকে ওয়াইন্ড আপ করবো। তুমি একবার বলো স্বর্ণালী।
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, আমি বুঝতে পেরেছি, কিন্তু আমি জানি না কতটা গুছিয়ে বলতে পারবো আর কি, তাও বলছি। তো হচ্ছে যে পোয়েট এখানে দেখাচ্ছে একটা উইন্টার ইভিনিং এ তিনি কপিস কেটে সামনে রেস্ট করছেন, তিনি দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন, সামনে একটা ফিল্ড আছে, যে ফিল্ডটা সামনে একটা জায়গা আছে ফাঁকা, সেই জায়গাটা মেবি যে সেঞ্চুরিটা পার হয়ে এসছে সেটাকে তুলে ধরছে। তো এখানে